From the gridiron to the diamond, this is more than X's and O's. This is your best Florida sports podcast with CBS 12 News sports director John Evenson, producer extraordinaire Sam Sullivan, and Max Shepman with the lighter side of sports.
Welcome to episode 18.
That music always hypes me up. It never fails to hype me up.
A much different look, the same intro, a much different look, a much
You talking about my haircut?
style.
Oh,
yeah, your haircut.
Yeah,
You forgetting
great-
about the polo.
You do look very handsome.
Different layout in the front. We've got a lot of new topics we're going to be talking about. This is not going to be Dolphin-centric.
No.
As much as we love them.
First of all, who won the Dolphins
And hate
game
them.
last weekend? Who won? I missed it. Who won the Dolphins game?
I would say the tourist in Cancun. The tourist in Cancun.
Yeah, this is cool. This week we'll be talking about. I'm looking at this rundown. There's so much sports going on. There's so much great stuff to discuss.
Well, let's talk about it.
We've got
Let's talk
Panthers,
about it.
we've got Heat, we've got College Football Championship. I'm very invested in that personally. We've
Yep.
got NFL, TGL.
Oh, the Butler situation
All
with the
the
Heat is
Ls.
crazy. I
All
can't wait
of
to
it,
sink
yeah.
our teeth into
Jimmy
that.
buckets.
Let's first start off with tried and true Miami Dolphins.
There you go. You got
There's,
the helmet there to tap.
They've got a lot to figure out this offseason. Let me start off with the list of free agents that will be departing this offseason.
Okay.
We got Braxton Berrios, River Craycraft, Isaiah Wynn, Liam Eichenberg, Calais Campbell, Emmanuel Ogba, Anthony Walker, Javon Holland, Jordan Poyer. Those are just the big names.
Yeah.
I think the list is like double that. They've got quite a lot to figure out on top of what are they going to do about Tyreek Hill?
And there are some positives, too. We'll get into those. I mean, they've got 10 draft picks. The last draft wasn't too bad. I mean, and they could have, and as you mentioned,
job.
they could have more draft picks coming if they actually do what Max says that they should do and trade for Tyreek Hill. His argument last week, if you missed it, was that the time is now, right, Max?
Yes.
The time is now.
Time is now.
Don't wait too long. Now is when he'll get the most value. 1 week later, are you still sticking to that premise?
Absolutely. You know, you have to be smart to know when to let go of your best assets.
Yep.
And I know you talked a little bit about this with Perk. We'll get into it a little bit, Evanson. But, you know, it just depends on where the offense goes. You know, if they feel safe that Tua is the dink-and-dunk guy and we're not going to rely on the big play as much, then, yeah, what do you really need Tyreek Hill for? Because you can get another 1A or 1B in free agency. So if you're thinking about keeping the same offense, yeah, absolutely. I think it's time for Tyreek to
Well,
go.
if this is any indication, they did fire Wes Welker, the wide receivers coach, this week, along with Danny Crossman.
He was the cancer. He was the big
yeah,
problem
he
for
was.
that
He was
team,
the reason
for
why
sure.
this all went south.
Send him to the crossroads.
Yep. That was
the
it.
last 2 years, things were looking great with Tyreek Hill. Those big plays were happening. I don't think they are going to stay with the dink and dunk, as Max put it right there. I think a high priority in the offseason will be, as we did talk about last week as well, getting this running game going again, because that was a huge problem. I mean, you had Devon Achane, who was a great pass catcher and stuff like that, but that not having that element of your offense was proved to be absolutely brutal.
Yeah, I don't have the list of what NFL free agent running backs there are this offseason, but I will say, you know, they could always take a chance in the draft. You talk about those 10 draft picks, whether they wait for their own to come up on day 2, day 3, or they trade up and try and get somebody.
There are always solid running backs. They
For
need
sure.
a physical running back.
For
Chris
sure.
Perkins agrees. He
Yeah.
shares that with us a little
Well,
bit
yeah,
later.
well, and just to argue that fact is like,
Yeah.
okay, we don't need a speed guy. We
Right.
have Achane,
Yeah.
good with that.
Yep.
We have Mostert back there. For this offense to really thrive, to give a different dimension of a running game, you need a power back. You need a different pace back there to open up the big play, because if it's all about speed, yeah, the defense is going to be spread out already, so, you know, you just throw a cover 2 look back there, whatever. But if you have to bring that extra safety in the box, that adds a play action to it. One-on-one down the field, there you go.
Yep.
Should we really be angry at Tyreek Hill now? Like, I've looked at so many sides of this, and I keep waffling back and forth, but the guy
pissed.
at the end of the game, we're all pissed. Dolphin fans are pissed.
Yep.
And he's more or less just saying, like, this is this organization is not doing it for me right now, and I know it's not doing it for the fans either. But on the other side of it, he did quit on his team. That's a fact.
Yeah,
Fourth quarter, he pulled himself out of the game. So,
well, one question. Before we get to Sam, one question that I have is, shouldn't you really keep that a private matter? If you're that unhappy, instead of just leaking it out, like, oh, I hate this team, and I'm ready to move on or whatever, like, you are a professional athlete.
Tyreek Hill.
Granted, I am in a management position here, so I have to have some professionalism.
That's right.
So, if you're getting paid $90 million, maybe you should have a little professionalism as well.
Yeah, well, you're talking about Tyreek Hill here, though. This isn't his first.
But you look around the league.
Venting rodeo.
You look around the league, and how many divas are we getting? Diva stories that we're getting out. I mean, just look across the league. You look at George Pickens being late to games and meetings and stuff like that. Now Tyreek doing. Yeah.
Well, listen, it bleeds over to the whole Butler thing. I mean, you have a star on a team. You have one of these type of stars who they know they are difference maker megastars, and these are the type of things that you have to deal with, Max. And I think that's why, Mike McDaniel and Chris Greer were meeting with him the day after, trying to tame this fire, because they know either way, even if they are going to deal him, they have to tame this thing down a little bit. Yeah. And it can't turn into what the Jimmy Butler thing has turned into, where we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But the Heat, they don't like his attitude and the way he's been playing, but everyone else knows that too. So they're getting horrible trade offers. So they're in a bit of a pickle, and hopefully that does not become the case with Tyreek Hill. I don't think it will.
Yeah, no, I think that, back to your initial question, I don't like the way that he handled it. He obviously handled it completely wrong, but him wanting to do it, I can't be upset with that. I understand it. As Max mentioned last week and this week, he is in the prime of his career. Now is the time where it's, all right, do I want to stay here, finish out my career here, or am I going for another ring? So,
and his way to do it is to troll the entire Dolphins fan base, right?
Yeah, not nice, not nice.
Chris Perkins and I had a little chat.
He's our favorite.
This.
He's our favorite.
No, he doesn't pull any punches. And here's us talking about everything moving forward over the next few weeks with your Miami Dolphins. We are joined now by one of my favorites, Chris Perkins. He's a Sun Sentinel columnist. Specifically, he covers the Miami Dolphins on a daily basis. And Chris, your latest article is really going into detail about how the Dolphins have to be a smarter and more disciplined team. These unforced errors have been killing them for, I guess, the entire Mike McDaniel era. Yeah. Expand on that thought. How can they fix this?
One thing, John, that I think that they really, really need to start doing is drilling down on details. And we heard Mike McDaniel and the players talk about tardiness to team meetings, right? So to me, that's just kind of one of those detailed things where you need to be on your details. You need to have more respect for Mike McDaniel, the guy who takes up for you at every turn. If you're a player, he doesn't criticize players publicly, even though they deserve it. You need to have more respect for your teammates, more respect for the game, more respect for your job, right? Be more professional. And when we keep expounding on that, no more penalties, illegal formation, false start, the mindless things, the mindless fumbles. You're trying to protect a lead against Buffalo 10-6 in the third quarter. You get the ball on the first possession after the kickoff, and Raheem Mostert fumbles. You're trying to protect the lead against Indy in the second half. Raheem Mostert and Alec Ingold give up fumbles. Be smart about things. That late game unnecessary roughness against Jordan Poyer at Buffalo. That's another one of those things. So be smarter about things. And that's one thing that, Mike McDaniel brought this up a couple of times, John, during the regular season. And Chris Greer brought it up during the postseason press conference. Or season wrap-up. We wish it was a postseason press conference, right? The season wrap-up press conference, that the Dolphins keep beating themselves. They keep making these mistakes. And Mike McDaniel specifically mentioned Buffalo and Green Bay as two teams that kind of sit back and wait for you to make that fatal mistake, and then they just pounce. The Dolphins must be smarter, John.
Yeah, he took us on a little tour down nightmare lane there with some of those plays. We always hear that, though, heading into these games against tough teams on the road. You always hear the the assessment like, oh, if the Dolphins can play a perfect game and not make any mistakes, then maybe they can win. Is it possible Chris Grier could build a team that has a little bit of wiggle room? We don't always have to worry about being absolutely perfect.
Yeah, you know what? And I think that they've been kind of on that track, John, because look, the last 2 years you had the number 10 defense and the number 4 defense. Last year you had the number 1 offense. You're kind of getting close, but again, you've got to play smart football. You've got to take care of these little details, the strip sacks and the interceptions and the fumbles and you jump off sides and now it's 1st and 15 or something like that. So you've got to be more detail oriented. This hasn't been a bad team. They just haven't been a smart team, John. And really, their margin for error is not that great because, especially this year with the disappearance of the big play that could, wipe out a mistake in a second, they didn't have that luxury this season. So, next season, I think that there's hope for this team to make the playoffs next season. To win a playoff game, you need to improve this roster and you need to play smarter football.
Will that playoff game be won with or without Tyreek Hill?
Ooh,
he hasn't
here we go.
backtracked at all. I mean, his agent kind of has. It's the Dolphins' move, though, here at this point, right? If he's not going to say anything else, what happens next?
I don't know. I don't know what happens next, John. And here's where we're at with Tyreek, though, because this is a guy who, as you recall, he trolled the fans after that Houston loss, right? Very painful loss. And he puts out a tweet, "Time for me to go, coach." And it's like, time for me to go coach or time for me to go coach a football? Like, what did you mean, Tyreek? What did you mean? Yeah. And so, Tyreek loves to troll. He loves to cause problems. And, John, if Tyreek came out with a tweet this afternoon saying, "I don't want to be traded," would you believe it? And that's kind of where we're at with Tyreek. Unfortunately, he's cried wolf so many times that
it's kind of like the John Lovitz character, the pathological liar. I don't want to put that label on him, but it's hard to really take anything he says at face value.
Yeah, we'll call him the pathological troll, right? But that's a lot nicer. That's more socially acceptable in 2025, right? But yeah, he is. So, they're in a tough spot with Tyreek. They really are. But I'll say this. I think you're a much better team with Tyreek Hill than without him. And I mean that financially. And I mean that as far as strategy. And I mean that as far as talent on the team. But look, they need culture change, John. They need somebody to get Tyreek in line and to tell him just chill with all this social media stuff. Just chill. You don't have to stop altogether, but just don't be such a troll, right? And I think that would help. Tyreek focus. Look, Tyreek is a guy. We talk about changes. Danny Crossman and Wes Welker both lost their jobs. Danny Crossman, special teams coach, Wes Welker, the wide receivers coach. Let's not forget that Tyreek last year had 12 drops, which was tied for second in the league, or I think it was second in the league alone. This year, Jalen Waddle had 8 drops, which I think was like tied for 7th or 8th. And these are two guys who couldn't get off the line of scrimmage because teams were jamming them, and they couldn't figure out a way to beat the too high safety thing. So Tyreek has got some things he needs to focus on also. The social media trolling, just chill and focus on your job on the field first, Tyreek.
Another one of your great articles, which everyone should be reading at the Sun Sentinel, talks about Mike McDaniel's premise that the offense can pretty much stay the same. It just needs to attack defenses differently, but have kind of the same structure, same mindset. Based on what we saw this past season, there's got to be a mini overhaul in line here, right? I know you're a big fan of a physical running back.
Yep. Yeah. I don't see how he can just go into the season saying we're going to do the same thing. The same thing got stopped cold. Now, if you say we're going to keep the same idea but add a running back and add a slot receiver, okay, now that makes more sense. The Dolphins were on a good track last year. They added the tight end, Jonnu Smith. They tried to add the slot receiver with Odell Beckham Jr. That was a total disaster. But the running back thing, they went with more speed with Jalen Wright, the rookie 4th-round pick out of Tennessee. I would have loved to have seen them keep Chris Brooks, who they cut, and he went to Green Bay and has been, a kind of a sledgehammer up there. I would love to see Mike McDaniel make some tweaks to this offense. And look, I think that a power running game, they have the speed run game right now with Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane, but you need the power. You need something that's going to force the defense to reconsider playing that 7-man front, that's going to give you something in short yardage, third down, goal line, red zone, that's going to give your offense an attitude adjustment, right? That we're running you over. There's nothing you can do about it. I think that power run game does so many things. It helps the quarterback. It helps the backup quarterback, which is something else we'll discuss. It helps the play caller, Mike McDaniel. I just think that type of a running back, that sledgehammer, that attitude adjustment goes a long way with a team like the Dolphins.
Yeah, I mean, the best game of the week coming up, it's Cook versus Henry, Lamar
Correct.
versus Josh Allen. I mean,
Correct.
that says it all right there. All right, you alluded to it, the backup quarterback. 10 draft picks are coming up. I have the feeling that you think it should be a veteran, established quarterback. Please don't say Sam Darnold. But with the 10 picks, that's some positive stuff for Dolphin fans, for Chris Grier to work with, whether they like having him back or not. The 10 draft picks coming up, maybe more if there's some trades here.
Yeah, and look, let's be fair to Chris Grier. Now, I'm not a Chris Grier fan. I'd have fired him this season, except, they signed Tua to that contract extension, and Mike McDaniel handles Tua well, and I think that Mike McDaniel would pitch a fit if Chris Grier was not there. So Chris Grier is here. But let's be fair to Chris Grier. He did not have a bad offseason. It wasn't a great offseason, but you did get Aaron Brewer at center. You got Jonnu Smith at tight end. You drafted Chop Robinson at edge rusher. You drafted Patrick Paul at left side defense, at edge left tackle. Wow. You signed Jordan Brooks at linebacker. So it was a fairly productive offseason. It was not a Super Bowl winning offseason, which is what you needed, but he had a decent offseason. So as we look ahead to this draft, I think that there's some reason for optimism. They've got 7 of their own picks. They could get 3 compensatory picks for the players that they've lost. And look, if they lose Reggie McKenzie, who was interviewed with Chicago, I believe, for their general manager job, they could get 2 compensatory picks for him. You wouldn't get a compensatory pick for Anthony Weaver because he hasn't been there for 2 seasons, and that's how long they have to be there. But here's what you need. You need a lot of things on this team, right? You need 2 guards, you need 2 safeties, you need interior defensive line. I think you need a power running back, you need a slot receiver. Between free agency and the draft, they ought to be able to fill a decent amount of those roles. They aren't all going to be with first-team all-pro players. We know that. But you ought to be able to fill them with NFL-caliber players so that you don't have the situation that you had at guard this year where, look, I think Robert Jones and Liam Eichenberg are both NFL players, but they would probably be reserves on, 25 of the 32 teams. So Chris Grier has got to have a good offseason here. And by the way, the fact that Grier and McDaniel are back, I think that they're back on a 1-year make-good deal, that if they don't get a job done this year, and what that job is, win a playoff game, win 2 playoff games, if they don't get it done this year, if I'm Steve Ross, that's the door. Both of y'all are out.
Chris Perkins, thank you so much. We love always hearing from you, and continue everybody reading Chris Perkins. Very honest, brutally honest sometimes, but refreshingly detailed articles in the Sun Sentinel. Thank you, Chris Perkins.
Switching gears, our only saving grace for South Florida sports, none other than the Florida Panthers. The only team that's won in recent history. Of course, we've seen the Heat make the finals.
I was watching. Max and I were down there for the entire playoff run, and the other day I just took it upon myself to watch all the stuff that on the ice when they won the cup, that we got access to them hoisting the cup like 80,000 times, pictures and everything, and then that parade. Oh, my eyes welled up.
Yeah.
It's just so. It brought me right back. That parade, the feel of winning the Stanley Cup, and for the whole fan base to be down there.
Yep.
And also, like,
celebrating.
for winning it for the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what made it even more special. It's like, this is the first time that the
Yeah.
Panthers were able to taste this success.
It was their 30 years
Yeah.
as being a team, right?
And you see that the fan base takes a lot of slack from the Northeast, that, you know, it's just all fair weather.
Florida's not
Yeah.
really a hockey market.
Yeah, it's not
Florida's
a hockey
really
town.
A hockey
They can't
market.
do it.
Suck it,
Listen,
Boston.
the entire South Florida is a fair weather. Like, I don't want to say fair weather, but it's an event town. Let's put it that way.
Oh, yeah.
There are those type of fans, but man, there are hardcore Panthers fans
sure.
who, you know, just they were in tears down there that day. And lately we have this new season. They are in sort of a period right now. We dealt with this last year as
Yes.
well, where they're losing a bunch of games in a row. If you watch the games, they've lost their scoring touch just a little bit. The shots on net aren't quite hitting their target. But lo and behold, that Devils game where they won 2-1 in a shootout.
How good is Anton Liddell?
Yes. Yeah, and you get reminded
A
of
staple.
all these stars that just had their moments last year, and they come out, and speaking of that, in that game, the thing that kind of turned, there was nothing going on, no scoring in the first two periods, and then you have Matthew Tkachuk, massive hit, I forget who he hit, and it just all of the Devils just pummeled him, attacked him. Of course, he's the only guy who goes to the penalty
Right.
box, but that changed the energy of that game, and in my opinion, led to giving the Panthers an opportunity to win that thing in a shootout.
Yeah,
so
they-
stuff like that.
A spark like that is exactly what they need, because I have it written down. They haven't had a win streak. They haven't won consecutive games since December 20th and 22nd. And that can't work as you get closer to the All-Star
No.
break, as you're looking to take over the division, of course. Toronto right now, as of Wednesday, they have a 1-point lead
Oh, they'll blow it.
over it.
Oh, coming from the Maple Leaf guy over
Canadian
there.
native.
I've been following that team for quite some time as well.
They're
They'll blow
tied
it.
for fourth in the Eastern Conference right now. So, yeah, a game like that, a win like that, that's the kind of spark that they need to really, push it forward.
You know, I was kind of reading this, just keeping up with the Athletic and stuff, and Patrick Hornquist, now works in the Panthers front office. He kind of had a conversation with the team. Is like, going back-to-back Stanley Cups is difficult. Going 3 straight years is even more difficult.
Right.
And I remember reading in the article, and I forgot exactly who wrote it, but the key that Patrick Hornquist made was there are going to be ups and downs in the season, no matter what. It doesn't matter what point it is. But he made an emphasis to make sure that it's important to get off to a good start. That way, when you get to the All-Star break midway through the season, you're tired, because that is a lot of hockey if you're trying to make 3 straight Stanley Cup finals.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
they've had 2-month breaks,
Right,
for
so
2 years in a row.
And you look at it. You look at it right now.
Yeah.
They're 1 point away from the division lead. Even in the midst of this inconsistent middle part of the year, they got off to such a good start to the season to be able to afford that little lull in the season where, we're heading in the All-Star break. They're not playing their best hockey right now, but look at it. They're 1 point away from the division lead.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and to base off what Evenson earlier, talking about the Florida Panthers fans, when we were down there all 3 years, we couldn't believe. For me personally, it was like, maybe it is like a little entertainment town, whatever. But I don't know, Evanson, how many people did we run into where, like you said, die hard, 30 years, been waiting all this time. It's been such a joy as a South Florida guy all my life to know that South Florida has become a hockey market.
Yep.
And we'll talk about it all the time.
It's
the
even-
trade that changed this franchise, and we just talked about him, was Matthew Tkachuk.
Heck yeah. There's no question for the reasons that I alluded earlier. And you're right, Max. I mean, it's almost more satisfying than an entire city who's just like a bunch of zombies all into the same team because that's who they need to be into because they live in that city. I mean, there is there's a different type of passion down here if you're a Panthers fan because all those years when you were just, hiding in your cave watching Panthers games, it's grown and
You
grown.
could get glass seats for like $75 to whatever game you wanted to, whatever.
Yeah, people have had those experiences too when they were kids. And to show this team off to the entire world and to be Stanley Cup champions, now there's the Winter Classic that's going to be coming up in 2025 against the Rangers. So
26, the start of 26.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
The 26, officially the 25-26 season. But to be able to show off again, like, look, we're the Winter Classic team now. You know what I mean? It's right at where the
Winter
Marlins
in
play.
Florida. How about it?
Yeah, and this team is so deep. You mentioned Aaron Ekblad has been out for the past few games, and the defense again. And I mean, Spencer Knight was just
outstanding last night. Outstanding last night.
Which is great to see. He's been through a lot emotionally and with his career. And now during the national anthem, when people yell
Red or Knight, sorry,
yeah.
Knight, sorry.
His name is Spencer Knight, not Spencer Red. It actually means something.
Yeah.
And Sam Reinhart, I just thought I'd mention this. In that Philly game, he scored his 5th shorthanded goal of the season. 5 shorthanded goals from Sam Reinhart. Panthers have 11 of those, but Reinhart became the second NHL player in the past 20 years to have 5 or more shorthanded goals in a season. We're not even halfway through the season.
No.
He could break that record, and he's a special guy.
It's
on special teams.
It's such a weapon to just be able to throw out Sam Reinhart on a penalty kill, no problem. Because at any point you can get a goal to change the lead or change the direction of the game.
Yep.
I mean, you look at his stats: 27 goals, second in the league. He's got 51 points, tied for 11th in the league. Like the Panthers did a very smart thing because, again, almost like the Tyreek Hill situation. Like, do we have enough cap space to keep this guy?
Right.
And the fact that the Panthers pulled that trigger to make sure he stayed around.
Yeah.
Such a key move for them.
Yeah, they lost like the Ekman Larsons. They lost a few other guys.
Brandon Montour.
Montour, yeah, right. Like 2 days after the parade,
Yeah,
they
that's
lost
it.
Montour. There's a couple other guys. I'm trying to think at the top of my head, some key guys, but obviously they're backup Stolars and whatnot. But they filled the holes nicely, and they're doing a great. I think they're going to get out of this. If you want to call it a slump by their standards, it
Right,
is.
yeah.
And they're going to be right there for that second straight Stanley Cup championship.
Yeah, and a certain person or people that couldn't fill the hole, sink it in the hole last night, Tuesday night, was Tiger Woods and his TGL team. I mean, that was his debut. Did not go as planned, but nonetheless, very entertaining. John, you were there.
It's awesome down there. Yeah, I was down there with, DJ Khaled and Serena Williams and
Ron DeSantis.
Ron DeSantis and I.
You were sitting next to them, or?
They kept us separate. They
Okay.
definitely made a move to keep us. They knew we would just talk each other's ears
They kept
off,
you
so.
away from them, or them away from you?
I don't know.
I think
him
away from them because Evanson would have complained about his house taxes and all that other stuff. Like, Ron, what are we doing here? Why are you here? Like, let's.
Well, I was
fix
trying to
my
freestyle
insurance.
rap, so I was thinking DJ Khaled might hear me
Yeah.
and maybe put me on his next album, but I haven't heard.
Oh,
from
good
him-
like
from-
good
from
rap
people.
karaoke moment with the John Evenson.
Yeah, definitely not happening.
But the scene down there, it really does feel like, LA, like when you go to a Lakers game and there's stars there.
Yeah.
And that was kind of cool and fitting that LA beat the Jupiter Lynx, although, the Jupiter's where I live. I want to see the Jupiter Lynx win.
Yeah.
But, everything we've seen with the Los Angeles fires and everything, the golfers even said after, like Morikawa and those guys that they have so many friends and family who've lost homes there.
Yep.
So they were doing
Prayers out to everybody out there.
For
And
sure.
Absolute-
The first responders, man. We work in this news business. It's crazy to see it on a daily basis and what's going on. Like,
Surreal.
I can only imagine what everybody's going through
out there.
just surreal. And the Rams the night before, and then the
that big
TGL. TGL is the newest thing on the block, but Tiger Woods also from California, And, the funniest thing, it was so weird because, like, they played horribly. Like, there's no question about it. 12-1 final for
That's
this.
an understatement,
Indoor
sir.
golf league. If you haven't seen it, it's really cool. It's in Palm Beach Gardens at the SoFi Center. You tee off into this massive screen and almost like a video game, but it accurately assesses where your ball is going to go. You see it as if you're hitting on a par 5. Then there's like a sand surface. There's a rough surface and everything there, little squares, and then you move it on from there, and then you go to an actual putting green that morphs and changes depending on the hole.
Yeah.
And so the Jupiter Lynx were playing horribly, which is Tiger Woods' team. And I think it was Kevin Kisner hit a shot.
Oh, it bounced right off the pin.
It looked like he launched it like it was something I
Not
would
off
do.
the pin,
like,
but yeah.
if
He was
would
looking
have,
for the pin.
yeah, like it would have hit somebody in the crowd and killed them if it hadn't have hit that.
So you know what's great about that is when I see professional golfers just absolutely launch it to the moon. When I do it on our local courses, I'm like, all right, cool. Yeah. I'm just as bad as a professional golfer.
But that's what's great about golf because it works the other way too. Every once in a while, you make that chip shot out of the sand, and oh my gosh, right in the hole. So you could do something. It's the only sport where you could do something that a professional golfer does by mistake. You just do it once, and you feel what it feels like. But then to see them do what you normally do is also satisfying.
17 bad holes in a round. And it's that one hole that you get a par or birdie, and you're like, I need to come back. This is why I do this.
I need to build on that.
So that's
especially after a few beers.
And that's why this TGL, I don't know if Tiger and the boys had a few beers, but that's why this TGL indoor league, I think, will be successful because you could tell how competitive Tiger was at first, and it was really bugging him that he wasn't making his putts. And when Kevin Kisner hit that ball off the flagpole, and then he came back and almost hit a mile-long putt, it holed out, it literally went in and out. Tiger, I've never seen him laugh so hard. They were out there, they were crying.
A side of him that we've, like you said, never seen before.
Yeah, and when he came in to talk to us after at the podium, they had just thoroughly embarrassed themselves on national television. But it was beyond being embarrassed. It was to the point where they were laughing it off and just talking about how horrible they were. And I think a lot of people like Max and I can relate to that. And that might be just funny in a funny way how this works, how this hooks more golfers in.
I think the next step, it obviously will take quite a while, but I think the next step for the TGL is to, have that experience, have that access to the fans, to the audience, to your average golfer or player, whatever. Tiger Woods made Pop Stroke. That's mini golf where it's, very intense. It's not your typical windmills or, your little cool courses
you have actual
like that.
Sand bunkers-ish.
Yeah, it's legit. And I think for their next step is to be able to let the fans do that themselves. Have that experience of driving it into that virtual screen, going onto a putting green where the ground morphs and changes. I mean, they do have a bright future.
Yeah, man. I wonder if one day golf courses will just be they won't
Simulator?
even need them anymore.
Simulator?
Yeah, it's just going to be like,
They'll all just be
who wants to
generic
go
and then,
actually?
Hole 6 just bends as you walk up toward
Good
it.
news is you won't have to look for lost balls anymore.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Your generation is always looking for an easy way out, Sam.
Just easy or innovative. Looking for an innovative way. Something that the Heat need to do, the Miami Heat, they need to find an innovative way to get rid of Jimmy Butler.
There's no easy way out
in
of
my
this.
opinion,
There's no easy way
as
out.
a diehard Heat fan, that needs to go.
I disagree with that, Evanson.
That was a I'm not liking how this is turning out.
You think there's an easy way out, Max?
Butler
slated to return on Friday.
As we've seen, as we've just talked about,
if
he doesn't want to be here, adios.
Okay, well, that's great to say, but you have to have a trade that is worth the Heat's while. I think this is Jimmy Butler.
But again, if you look at the situation, and ESPN has been reporting this, is that he's not coming back. He's not coming back this year. So the option is, okay, do you keep him on the roster for the playoff run? Where what are you going to be? anything's possible. Yes, we know. But are you going to beat the Celtics, beat the Knicks, like in a playoff series? I don't think so. So at some point, it's just like the distraction of it all. I mean, you saw quotes from Spo. It's like, oh, it's to quiet all the distractions. Tyler Hero, when they went to play on the road against the Trailblazers, the quote was just to get back on the road and get away from all the chaos. Like, I haven't really heard about the quote-unquote Heat culture like this in a long time.
Yeah.
Think of the position he's put them in, though. I mean, he's literally made Heat fans kind of choose a side, I guess, in a way, right?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, him coming just spur of the moment saying that he wants out after a week earlier, Pat Riley had said that they're not trading him.
Right.
That's a position right there where other teams are automatically at a position, at an advantage, okay? So the Heat, so far, I guess the reports have been like they have not seen an acceptable trade offer yet.
Right. Yeah, I think Shams put that out. Yeah.
Yeah, and this suspension is officially over. Like, he is technically eligible to come back and play on Friday. At this point, as we do this podcast, we don't know for certain what move the Heat are going to make here, whether they're just going to say, hey, chill, we'll find a trade and move on without you. It's hard to imagine. They've called out his effort. Well, like, what are they gonna do? Put him out there?
Well, so again, like like you just said, Evanson. Like, some of the reporting was like Jimmy kind of got upset because there were some team officials that were like, Jimmy, you're not playing hard.
Right.
So like, and that
there was a specific
really,
game that they mentioned.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't remember off the top of my head, but like that was really kind of the thing that almost got this thing started. And I believe also in the other report was like Jimmy's upset, like they're not getting playmakers to like help him win. And his option was Kyle Lowry.
Right.
So, you look at the improvement by Tyler Hero, offense out of the ball. He's really come along.
Yep.
Bam, really locking it down on the defensive side.
Terry Rozier has really stepped up in Jimmy's absence.
Right. So it's kind of tough to be like, they're not really putting the pieces around him to win.
Yeah, no. For the past 5-6 years, even before he showed up, they've always needed a big man, like a real big man. And Bam has filled that role at times and done very well, and other times you could just tell he can be, he's mismatched and it doesn't work out. We saw it in the finals against the Nuggets. He's not the type of guy that should be guarding Jokic at all.
No.
Yeah.
So they haven't been able to fill that void. And it's overall been a situation. Avid basketball fans always talk about it, that Jimmy Butler's the type of player that doesn't really show up in the regular season. He'll show up that final month, 2 weeks, and then from there on out, he's one of the greatest players you ever see in the playoffs.
He's a guy who plays when he wants it.
Just
when
look
his
at
heart says he wants
when
a
it's on the line and a play-in against the Chicago Bulls, they're down by double digits.
You
late
see
in the game.
the photo of him just exhausted on the media thing or whatever. Kind of speaking to the fans, I want to bring this up real quick. I put a poll on Twitter, or excuse me, X. Sorry, everybody. Sorry, Elon. Don't be mad.
Twitter. What is this?
Yeah.
2000.
Let's get a little chirp going on. I put a poll up that says, Heat fans, would you rather trade him now, or do you want to let it ride with him for the playoff run this season? And believe it or not, it was actually pretty close. It was a lot closer than I thought.
Wow.
People love Jimmy.
60% said trade him now. 40% said let it ride. So obviously with that, you see there's some differences in the fan base.
But Pat Riley is not just going to pull the trigger on any trade.
No, and that's the advantage of Pat. Like, we all know Pat Riley. He's a badass, but he's also a hard ass.
Pat O'Reilly?
Pat O'Reilly.
No, I said Pat Riley.
Pat Riley.
Okay.
Did I say Pat O'Reilly?
No. O'Reilly.
I don't think so.
We're all over the place here. That's the one thing about Pat Riley, right? He's a badass. He's able to recruit stars. We always saw with the big three, whatever. But he's also a hard ass to know that this team is going to play his way, Spo's way, and if you don't like it, sorry, like, you're under contract with the Heat. Get over it, and we'll figure it out later.
So that's why so many people give him the better. Like, no one is like all anti. Not everyone is anti-Heat. Like, why did you do this? You made our star mad. Right. Like, I think there's enough of a history there where people are putting their trust in, Riley, the Godfather, that he's going to eventually solve this. There was also a lot of reports throughout Jimmy's tenure here that he was just kind of separate from the team. Like he's that star tree. They gave him so. That's maybe to Riley's fault. Like they just gave him so much. Yeah. And separate this, separate that, and he wouldn't stay with the team. I don't think.
Which is crazy because as talented as Jimmy is, and as good as a player as he is,
Jimmy,
we never heard stuff like that with the big three.
Yeah.
No.
So,
although LeBron did leave because he wanted more.
It wasn't until the end that Pat Riley drove him out,
fair.
and then.
But that goes to my point. It's like Pat Riley's a hard ass dude, so it's like you're gonna do it his way, the Heat way, or you're out.
Yeah.
So
there is a Heat culture that definitely exists. I'm sure I'd love to have that booklet.
Yeah.
The Heat. Am I dreaming this up? I think players actually get
a
booklet that details
the Heat
culture. Did I make that up? I think I've heard that before. There's they actually.
I feel like I've heard it as well.
Yeah.
So I will say the one thing with Jimmy, I think he with his unhappiness, you look at his stats, he's only putting up 10.5 shots per game. So the displeasure of maybe not being involved with the offense as much. Again, with the improvement of Tyler Hero.
What's going on in South Florida? Everyone wants out.
I know.
Everyone wants out.
Thank God we got the Gatos. There's no drama there.
Thank goodness we had the Orange Bowl last week because that was something else.
Man.
That was
an exciting one.
Sam, can you be honest with me?
Yes, I can.
And I want you to be super honest.
Super.
How many beers did you have for that game?
None.
Were you off that night?
I was not working, but I did not have any beers.
What?
I was so locked in. So focused.
Dude, I need a beer to
on the Fighting Irish, because that was you felt like the game was in our grasp. We could really do something here. We outscore them in the second half, and then they tie it up, take a lead, back and forth, and then Drew Aller. Man, that throw right up
right
the middle.
After the play-by-play commentator said he never throws interceptions.
The announcer jinx. The announcer jinx.
What a tough play by that corner. Great interception. They go on. They win it 27-24, and now they got to face Ohio State, which has been an offensive juggernaut.
The most complete team in college football.
Yes.
But both of these teams. I don't think this 12-team playoff format. It's great that these two teams are the last two teams to come out of that format because
what are they 7-8?
Right,
I believe.
Oh, the seeds?
Yeah, I believe they're 7 and 8.
Like the Ohio State, their head coach completely on the hot seat of just a few weeks ago
after that Michigan loss.
And let me just ask: when Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois early in the season, could you have pictured them in the national championship game?
Yeah, no, I mean,
as an Irish fan,
oh my God,
their starting quarterback Riley Leonard he has admitted it that he went into such a dark place after that loss. Can we bounce back from this? Can we pull off a complete season? Because as an independent school, you need a near complete season to be able to make the playoff at this point. 2 losses wasn't going to be able to do it for them, and they pull off the inevitable. They go on this massive win streak. They beat Indiana. They stun Georgia. They beat Penn State. And this is, there's a lot of things that they need to be able to establish in this game. I'll start off with Notre Dame. First thing they need to do.
Protect their QB, dude.
Well, that's a given. They got to protect the QB, especially somebody he's such a huge part of their run game.
Yeah.
He had 1 less rushing touchdown than he did passing touchdowns in the regular season. Mm-hmm. But their big thing, they need to establish a pass game. Their run game is going to happen. They've got a two-headed monster at running back with Jeremiah Love and Riley Leonard, but you need to establish a pass game. You saw it, that deep pass where both corners fell on the ground. They got that wide-open touchdown. That's number 1. Number 2, as I already mentioned, Jeremiah Love, you need to get him more involved. He's dealing with that knee injury. It hasn't really been consistent for him. And then the third thing, you got to be able to pressure Will Howard, Ohio State's quarterback.
Yeah.
Because that defense has been able to play great, but Notre Dame's dealt with some injuries. You have to be able to pressure him and not let him get into these 3, 5, 7-step dropbacks and launch the ball downfield.
I will say with Jeremiah Love, I think the Irish played it right to use him in a limited capacity.
Yes.
Granted, if you lost, sure, the questions were, why weren't you using him more? But, in this situation, they're in the playoff championship game. And now with, I wouldn't say full rest, but more rest than
Normal.
he would have had if you would have ran him into the ground these past few games. Now you have your biggest star ready to roll on the biggest stage. So I think they play that very smart, Notre Dame did.
Well, I got to watch the game, the Orange Bowl, with Urban Meyer.
What up,
next
Coach?
To him. Right next to Coach. Actually, no. I ran into him for 5 minutes. Had my trusty microphone in my hand.
He saw John Evenson coming. He's like, oh, crap.
He tried to run. I chased after him. Of course, the Triple Option is the podcast that he's a part of on our Sinclair Podcast Network. Is that what we call it?
Yeah.
It's a great listen.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, it's a great listen. And Urban and I, Urban, first of all, Coach Meyer was just inducted into the Orange Bowl Hall of Fame. You know, and so we talked about the game that he won with the Gators as one of the greatest teams in his opinion of all time, and we'll let Coach Meyer speak for himself. Well, congratulations, Coach, on being inducted into the Orange Bowl Hall of Fame. It was like old times. You had some cheers, you had some booze there from the rivals. Must have felt great.
I didn't hear the cheers; they were drowned out. But I coached several years at Notre Dame. My son was born, baptized there, so I thought there might be a little, but the Penn State crowd's rugged, and as the great Steve Spurrier once said, that if your rivals cheer you, that means you weren't very good. So there was no cheers.
What kind of memories come back, just even for those few minutes that you were on the sideline with the players running out of the tunnels and stuff? You can't help but have the hair on the back of your neck stand up, right?
That'll never go away, but they're celebrating the Orange Bowl. Is in 2008, we had Tim Tebow in Oklahoma at Sam Bradford, one of the great games in Orange Bowl in college football history, and we won 24-14 in the national championship. To win the Gators, to win in your home state, and that was one of the great teams of all time. I mean, I'd put that 08 Florida team against anybody.
Was there anything else that was different about that one than your first one?
The first one was improbable. It was a team that had an excellent defense in 06, and then offense kind of found its way and recruited a kid named Tim Tebow, and we played both him and Chris Leak. And by the end of the year, we were great. But middle of the year, man, we were just fighting ways to get first downs. But 08 was not improbable. That was the best team in college football.
Well, to be out there with your podcast partner there now, and the life after, the broadcasting world now, what's that like to be out there with him and kind of both go through that perspective together? Yeah,
and Brady Quinn is on the Big Noon with us, and he's on the Orange Bowl board, and Matt Leinart's become one of my closest friends, and I love being around him. And he threw for 330 yards and 5 touchdowns when they beat Oklahoma real bad. So this has been a great moment, and I'll say this about the Orange Bowl. There's a lot of bowls out there. This is as good as any of them.
Well, that's great to hear. Can I ask you one more just about what your sort of take is on the college football playoff? We spoke to you before. What has it injected into the sport now that we've gone this far?
Well, college football is all sports are about the player, and the great thing about the playoffs, you don't see players sitting out. And it got bad for a while. I mean, there's teams that have 10 players sitting out, and it's a shell of themselves. I don't blame them, but as long as you can fight for a national title in the playoff, they're all playing, and that's the best thing about it.
That was truly, it was kind of a funny moment when they were, announcing Urban Meyer into the Hall of Fame, and it was such a loud, boos just raining down.
You could hear it in the broadcast.
He was a good sport. He was laughing, and as he says, if you're not being booed, then you weren't tough enough on your rivals.
That's right. That's right.
Matt Leinart also inducted into the Orange Bowl Hall of Fame. A legend there. That game, he just won the Heisman Trophy when he won the Orange Bowl.
Man,
and when with the USC, the national championship that year. What a season that was for him.
Those battles against Texas, Vince Young. I mean, what a time.
Legendary.
Yeah.
College football is so great. Let's talk to Matt Leinart. Hey, congratulations, Matt, on the honor of being put into the Orange Bowl Hall of Fame. What was that experience like for you being out there, hearing the crowd, seeing the guys come out of the tunnel?
Hearing the boos from Notre Dame, it was it's awesome. The Orange Bowl does a great job, and just all week we've had a great time. The hospitality, just first class everything. And honestly, it's like one of my greatest memories is playing in the Orange Bowl, getting a chance to win the national championship, at USC, beating Oklahoma. It's just, we were talking, Vince and Coach and I were talking yesterday, it's just, you play to win championships, right? That's the ultimate goal, and there's so much that goes into that. And for it to kind of culminate here and to be back in South Florida, my wife is born and raised here, so like family here at the game. So it's just awesome. It's been a great week and obviously a great game.
I'm sure there was memorable celebrations after, but leading up to it, did Coach Carroll, have a tight leash on you, or were you able to enjoy it as it was happening? What are your memories there?
Back then, we were here for a week, so you had a lot of team events. You did a lot of different things. We pretty much approached it like any other week. You're in Miami, a lot of temptation, especially when we're 20 years old, to go out and stuff. But we were dialed in, and we were there for a business trip. We remember having fun. We had fun after the game, obviously. That was a lot of fun. But you treat that game like any other game. The same preparation, the same study, and all that, and we came out on top.
Now, you had just won the Heisman over a couple of Oklahoma guys. Was that some extra incentive maybe to go in there and validate the victory and to just have one more game with it?
Yeah, well, Adrian Peterson was fantastic. He had finished second. Jason White had won the Heisman, I think 2 years prior, or the year prior. And great team, great guys, obviously. I remember a story. We did a bowl event, the teams together, and a lot of their defensive linemen were kind of talking smack, they're like, that's the Heisman Trophy winner. They were obviously upset that their guy didn't win. And that kind of fueled a little fire for me, and I remember, I forget the guy's name, but he was one of the defensive ends, and obviously the way we beat them, I was talking a little smack during the game to him. But, it was obviously a great honor to win and be able to share that with the team and then go out and finish the season beating them in the title game.
And then to share this tonight with Urban Meyer, who you both do podcasts now and with our company, and that's a sweet after football thing, and for you to come back and enjoy this experience together, it must be something different.
It's so cool. Coach and I work together on our Big Noon Kickoff show at Fox 2, and then we both have the podcast going right now, which is a lot of fun, and then. Yeah, to get to do this too. I mean, obviously Urban's one of the best coaches of all time in college, and he deserves this honor. And Vince Wilfork here too, one of the great players to really ever play the game at any level. But it's fun to share this with Coach and to be here with him and his wife Shelly.
All right, so the moment that we were all waiting for, our score predictions. I'll tell you right now, as of Wednesday, OSU, Ohio State, the Big O, current 8-point favorites, over under 45.5. Mm-hmm. Like I talked about, Notre Dame has only known close games. I'm going to stick with that. I've got Notre Dame winning 34-28.
All right, I agree with you. It's going to be a close game. I do feel like Ohio State is just too deep, too loaded. You're very close to me. I think you could punch me in the face right now for saying this, but I flip that score in favor of Ohio State.
Okay.
I'm kind of with you, Evanson, man. I think Ohio State's just too loaded, too deep. I just don't see how Jeremiah Smith just doesn't take over this football game. So I'm gonna go 42. I'm gonna go 42-35 Ohio State.
You upset?
I'm going high scoring this.
You upset with that, Sam?
I'm not upset because the upset will happen on
I can tell how
Monday.
passionate you were about that topic because that college football segment was supposed to be leading into Urban Meyer. And I finally stopped talking because I figured you would end it.
Yeah.
And just kept going.
Okay,
but we let you vent. We let you get it all out.
Thank you. Another topic that I'm hugely invested in is the NFL.
What's that?
Divisional round.
That's going on? I didn't
That
realize that was happening.
We've got probably the biggest game out of the slate this weekend on CBS 12 News, and that's Baltimore-Buffalo.
Let's end with that one. Let's go in order. Let's
Okay.
go in order of
I'm
the
gonna tease it.
natural
That's
order.
a tease.
I like that. All right, so you want to start from the top?
All right.
All right, as usual, the Houston Texans are in it. It's the first game of the day. 4:30 on ESPN. We got Texans and Chiefs.
Well, Patrick Mahomes, of course, what is he? Six straight AFC Championship games. He's led his Chiefs to the Texans. What did the Texans have defensively last week? It was
4 interceptions.
4 interceptions
on
Justin Herbert.
We were all. I was stunned by that.
And he
game.
had 3 all season. Is that correct?
I will say,
I wouldn't be surprised.
let's make sure to keep it local. Our boy Azeez Al-Shire for the Texans, FAU,
man.
the hoot.
Oh,
He's got his phone out right now.
I'm texting him.
Give him
right now.
a call.
Come, hop on the pod.
So these two teams played each other just a few weeks ago. It was 27-19 Kansas City. It looked like they can make a drive at the end, C.J. Stroud to tie up the game. Didn't work out. That's where they lost Tank Dell, that freak injury where he dislocated his knee, tore several ligaments.
Now, the Chiefs have been sitting for 2-3 weeks now. I mean, the big stars
you think about it, they had the bye, but on top of that, they rested all of their starters just to make sure the Bengals didn't get in.
I will never bet against Patrick Mahomes. I decided that a couple of years ago. You always think that, this is the one. He always finds a way to win these type of games.
All right, so let's do it right now. Give me your score prediction on that game.
Score prediction? Gosh,
we're going numbers?
We're going right now.
Let's do teams.
All right, let's go teams.
We'll do teams.
Chiefs.
You got Chiefs. Max, who you got?
I'm going Chiefs too because you know what? I don't care if Pat Mahomes sits for 18 weeks. That Texans offense is bad. It is bad. So I'm going Chiefs here.
You know what? If for those Chiefs and Texans fans who remember, a few years ago when Deshaun Watson was on the Texans, they had that huge lead, first, second quarter. KC rallies all the way back, wins that game in the playoffs. I'm gonna say that situation's flipped. I got the Texans in this one. Come from behind victory.
You're not alone, man. There's people.
Stunner.
We spoke with Alex Butler a little bit later on. He'll give us some more insight into that. All right, let's move on to the Lions. What do you think? Move on to the Lions.
Lions Commanders, Fox at 8.
David Montgomery makes his return. That running attack is absolutely lethal. But then so is the rookie Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, I mean the Lions are a juggernaut, but the Commanders. I personally thought last week that they got to the postseason a little too early with Jaden Daniels. I just thought they were 1 year off. They win that game at the very end, that double doink to win it. Their last 5 games, the Commanders have won on their final offensive possession.
Crazy stat.
And you keep thinking it won't keep happening, but it does. The magic continues with Jaden. He's got it.
He does.
Got it.
But that magic will end on Saturday.
Do you agree, Max?
Yeah, I think so. As great as the Commanders have played, as great as Jaden Daniels' season's been, I just think the Lions are in a different class. Even with all the injuries that they have right now, I like the Lions in this one.
Yeah.
All right, well, just to be a devil's advocate then, Jaden Daniels won me my fantasy league. He's my favorite new player in the league. I love watching him and how he's just taken this Commanders team and turned it into a relevant, exciting team. Let's say he takes this one down to the end once again, gets that last drive, and they shock the nation and beat the Lions.
Wow.
And then the next one, Rams at Eagles.
Oh,
Sam Sullivan.
Are you going to go on and on about this one like the Notre Dame game?
I will not. I think the one glaring thing, this is once again, so 3 out of these 4 games are rematches.
Yeah.
Buffalo's played Baltimore, KC's played Houston, and the Rams have played the Eagles. When they played in Week 12, 37-20 in LA, Philadelphia won. Saquon probably had the game of his life. 26 carries, 255 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns that were both 70-plus yard rushes. I don't think he's going to do that again, but I've definitely got the Eagles in this one.
Rams had 9 sacks.
I know.
Do you think they'll come anywhere close?
I think it's a much different offensive line they're playing. Arguably the best offensive line in football with the Philadelphia Eagles. I think they'll be able to get Jalen Hurts. They'll get him pressured. He obviously had a lot of rust to wear off last week against the Packers. Didn't really do much, but he didn't really need to do much. Their defense stepped up big in that game, causing 4 turnovers, I believe, 3 interceptions. That fumble to start the game on kickoff, I don't think it'll be enough.
That was a tone setter right there.
Tone setter.
Who
you got in that game, Max?
Oh, man. God, it's. I think it's going to be a lot closer than some people think. I mean, playoff Matt Stafford is just a different human being.
Yeah.
I mean, he is just rolling back the clock as soon as he gets to the postseason. I do like the Eagles this one in a close one. I agree with you, Sam. I think Jalen Hurts had a lot of rust to knock off getting back from that concussion.
Yep.
But, the blessing of working your quarterback in there is just, hand it off to your running back there. 2,000 yards all season.
Yeah,
So
not just your average running back.
it's a good security blanket. I don't think I think in this one I don't think A.J. Brown's going to have enough time to be reading a book on the sideline. I think they're going to get.
Oh man,
Number
inner
one on
excellence.
Amazon.
I think
Inner excellence.
I think they're going to get him a little bit more involved in this game, but I like the Eagles in this one.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, and the last one,
I'll be the devil's advocate again. Then I'm taking the Rams, man. I'll take the Rams.
How could you?
I'll take the Rams. It's LA.
Sam's hurt by that.
Do it for LA, man. Do it for LA. The Rams are on it. It
That
just
is-
makes
that is-
sense that they
is
would
fair.
win this game.
They are riding that. We've seen that across all professional sports. We saw it with the Lakers when Kobe Bryant passed away. They rode that wave to win a championship. We saw it with the Saints, the hurricanes that they've dealt with, Hurricane Katrina. It could happen.
It'd be great to see from that standpoint, although sad to see for you.
It would be sad to see.
All right, well, let's wrap this segment up, right? The game of the century, probably for sure.
Oh,
it
man.
should be an AFC Championship game.
It should be.
I mean, the quarterbacks alone,
oh my God,
dominate
Boynton
this marquee.
Beach's Lamar Jackson going
yeah.
up against Josh Allen, who's the MVP this year.
Who's-
You got James Cook running wild. You got Derrick Henry making the Steelers look like a garbage franchise.
And this
Man.
game is on CBS 12.
CBS 12 News.
Their first matchup was a doozy.
Yes.
And
That
there's no
was-
reason to expect that it's going to be any less.
That
this
was
time.
35-10
That was
in Baltimore.
Too early in the season.
Well,
to-
doozy, good way for me. Sorry,
Yeah.
doozy in a good way.
Yeah. You
Week
can't
four.
you can't look at that game and try to assess what's going to happen.
No,
in
much
this game.
much different teams.
Totally.
Baltimore went on a huge win streak after that. Of
Yeah.
course, Buffalo turns things around and they go on to secure the 2 seed. This is a tough one.
Now, last week, let's ask Max, because last week, as a Pittsburgh, in that Steelers bar that you were in, you had, you watched Lamar Jackson. Did you ever know who had the ball at any given time? Was it Lamar Jackson, or was it Derrick Henry? Like it was hard
all
to
over
tell
the place.
sometimes.
It's hard
Yeah.
to tell. Well, and again, you look just from a Steelers fan perspective, you saw T.J. Watt was just destroying.
Yes.
Derrick Henry. And I believe that's what he was just coached to do, which was actually the exact opposite, because back in the previous meetings, they would just hit Lamar Jackson no
Right.
matter what.
Right.
And, a credit to the Ravens for adjusting to that and be like, okay, well, you're just going to take Derrick Henry away for a time being. We're just going to give it to Lamar. Lamar, go wild.
Yep.
I wonder if the Bills are up for the defense is up for this challenge, the two-headed monster right there with Lamar and Henry. But then, Josh Allen, has his own tricks, and you got James Cook there, but
He's no Derrick Henry. But
no, they just size-wise,
Well,
perhaps not.
the thing
yeah.
that keeps me, yes, okay, look, the Ravens have the toys, they have the tricks. Buffalo's really the one team that I think can go offensive blow for blow with the Ravens.
Yes.
It's Josh Allen, your quarterback. Okay, Ravens going to put up 35. I'm confident Josh Allen could put up 35 points in this offense, no problem.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, it'll fuel his fire. The more Lamar scores, the more Josh will want to score, and vice versa. This is going to be this is going to be shootout. The Bills haven't lost a game in Orchard Park this season. Let's just say that continues. I mean, why go any other way? The edge is going to be 3, maybe between 3 and 7 points. The Bills, I think, are going to edge out Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you. I think it's Buffalo's time not only to make it back to the AFC Championship, but I think it's their time to go to the Super Bowl. I think they're right there. They're right on the cusp. Baltimore, of course, is right there too, but it's unfortunate that this game has to happen in the divisional, not the AFC Championship. I think this one goes into OT. Buffalo wins. Both teams are scoring in the 40s.
And then we go on at 1 a.m. with our newscast because it pushes all the programming
Yeah.
forward because of the overtime.
Who you got, Max?
Yeah, God, it's such, like you said, this should be the AFC Championship
Yes.
game. It's just two good teams that are just rattling off right at the right time. They're playing their best football.
Yeah.
As much as it sucks for Lamar, we love Lamar, obviously. I just don't see anybody stopping Josh Allen.
No.
Oh, we can't wait for more history to be made. And I can't believe it's been 6 years since the Tommy Lee Lewis no call, that Saints game.
Feels like yesterday.
It does feel like yesterday.
The Riviera Beach native, Max. You had a chance to talk to him recently. We have a great piece coming up leading up to the AFC and NFC Championship games 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, we brought him in. This story kind of came into place, scrolling on Twitter, or not Twitter, TikTok, before it gets banned.
Yeah.
God, Elon is, let me in. Is that Elon?
Elon is at my door.
Yes,
Yeah.
he's at his Ring doorbell.
But yeah, it came up. I was like, oh, okay, yeah. And then I looked up. It's going to be the 6-year anniversary.
Unbelievable.
And I threw the idea out there. I was like, hey, man, I'd love to talk to you about what happened.
He's on the sideline. You see him there with
At Cardinal Newman.
Yeah.
It was just one of those things. I was like, let me go ask him and see how he would feel about it.
Right.
Come to find out, he's never done a TV sit-down interview on it.
Yeah.
Never.
And you're forgetting to tell you, it took him a while to get back to you.
Right. So, yeah, he's a busy man. No problem.
Right, yeah.
No problem. But, yeah, we got him in here. First ever TV sit-down interview. He's done one interview about it on a local paper out in New Orleans. Mm-hmm. And the vibe of it was, it doesn't really bother him. He doesn't let it bother him.
Yeah.
As much as it's been talked about, been played, people coming at him, people coming at Nickel Roby-Coleman.
Yep.
The fact that it just doesn't let it bother him.
If you don't quite remember it, or if you have no idea what we're talking about, it's a really great piece that we're going to be airing.
It's 2019 NFC Championship game, Saints-Rams. Saints driving to potentially win the game. Drew Brees tries to hit Tommy Lee on a route. Nickel Roby-Coleman, boom, early. Everybody and their mother thought it should have been pass interference.
Unbelievable non-call. When you look at the reaction of the Saints sideline behind them from the angle that we've accessed, just their reaction. It's such a cool story. Do you have a clip that we could sort of
I do. So
with a feather?
I don't want to play the best part of it, but here's a little clip. Tommy Lee
Don't give it all away,
describing it and how he felt after the game.
There we go.
After the game, I couldn't believe it. It don't get no obvious than that. That was blatant, man. That was blatant.
Yeah, you forget. There's always these type of you see when you're looking through sports documentaries, you just think, I know everything that happened there, and I don't want to relive that and this and that. You will not believe this. This is a 6-7 minute story.
8-minute piece.
8 minutes. We'll be airing it on CBS 12 the weekend of the AFC Championship, which will air on our airwaves. And man, it'll really blow your mind, this story. So good job, Max.
Great job.
And Tommy Lee Lewis, thank you so much for sharing this.
I can't believe this is the first time that he's really talked about it in this depth and in this form.
Yeah.
So it's going to be exciting.
You're going to want to tune in for that. What else do we have today? This has been the longest. This has been the record best Florida.
You're going to want to tune into this episode, right? You're going to hear it at the end. You're going to want to tune into every other episode before that, and then you're going to want to stay tuned for next week because we're rolling. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about.
We're just getting started.
We're just getting started. So
Sports never ends.
It never ends.
It's like the mail.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in.
The mail.
We'll see you next week.
Best Florida Sports Podcast drops every Thursday morning. Listen on your favorite platform or watch on YouTube.